You did everything right at that job and they still pushed you out. And the reason is in a 500-year-old book your manager has probably never read but lives by every single day. You scroll for 10 minutes and everyone your age looks like they cracked the code. One friend got promoted at 23. Another one is freelancing 6 figures. Someone from high school is building something with a deck and a podcast. You are sitting there wondering why your manager, the one who said you have so much potential, suddenly stopped replying to your messages after you crushed that last project. By the end of this video, you will understand the exact psychological trap that took you out, why being too good at 24 can end your career faster than being mediocre, and the unwritten rule every powerful person uses to decide who they help and who they quietly remove. Stay to the end, the last point is the one most people skip, and it is the one that actually rewires how you see every room you walk into from now on. And quick warning, we will get to something called the threat rigidity response in a minute, and that is where this stops being career advice and starts becoming survival information. Here is the trap. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law 1, never outshine the master. Most people read that and think it is about kissing up or being fake. It is not. It is a warning about a specific psychological reaction in the person above you when they realize you might be better than them. And at 24, 25, you are walking into that trigger every single week without knowing it. Picture this. You are 6 months into your first real job. You notice the spreadsheet your senior uses to track client work is broken in 3 places. You fix it on a Sunday. You build something cleaner, faster, color-coded. Monday morning, you present it in the meeting. Your boss smiles, says, "Great initiative." 2 weeks later, you are not in the next strategy call. 3 months later, your performance review uses the phrase team fit. You are confused because you literally made everyone's job easier. That is Law 1 in motion. There is a documented behavior in organizational psychology called the threat rigidity response, studied by Stahl, Sandelins, and Dutton in 1981. When a person in authority feels their competence is being challenged, even slightly, they do not become more open. They become more rigid. They tighten control. They restrict information. They quietly remove the source of the threat, which in this story is you. Not because you did something wrong, because you did something right in a way that made them look replaceable. And here is the part nobody tells you at 25. Your boss does not need to consciously plot against you. The brain does it automatically. The amygdala registers status threat the same way it registers physical threat. Your manager will rationalize it later as culture fit, or they were not ready for the next step. But the decision was made in their nervous system the moment you outshine them in front of someone who matters to their career. This is not a story about evil bosses. This is the operating system of every hierarchy you will ever enter. And we are just getting started. Here is the counterintuitive part. Society told you that talent rises. Hard work pays off. Be excellent and the world will reward you. That is the script. If this is landing, save this video. You will want to come back to this when the next promotion you should have gotten goes to someone less competent than you, because the actual data on workplace promotion is brutal. A 2018 study by Bellamy and Pfeffer at Stanford found that overconfidence, not competence, was the single biggest predictor of who got promoted into leadership. Read that again. Not skill, not output, not even charisma. Confidence that often had nothing to do with actual ability. Meanwhile, a separate body of research, going back to Janice Jerome's work on what gets called the tall poppy syndrome, shows that high performers in mid-level positions get penalized socially at a rate 3 to 4 times higher than average performers. They get isolated, gossiped about, passed over. So why does this hit you hardest at 25? Because of something Machiavelli wrote in The Prince in 1513 that almost nobody quotes correctly. He said the prince must never let himself be surpassed in anything by those who serve him. He was not giving advice to kings. He was diagnosing a pattern. The person above you will tolerate you being useful. They will not tolerate you being a mirror that shows them what they are not. And at 24, 25, you are the most dangerous version of yourself. You have new energy. You learn things in school that your boss never learned. You are fluent in tools they pretend to understand. You have not yet learned the soft humiliations of office politics. So you walk in raw, sharp, eager, and you trip every status alarm in the building. The senior person who could have been your mentor sees you and feels their relevance evaporate. The Dunning-Kruger curve plays a cruel joke here too. The truly mediocre middle managers think they are great, so when they meet someone actually great, they do not see talent. They see disrespect. Here is the unspoken rule. In every hierarchy, the second most powerful person in the room is watching for 2 things. 1, is this person useful to me? 2, is this person going to make me look stupid? And they will sacrifice 10 units of usefulness to avoid 1 unit of looking stupid. Every time. But here is where most people get this completely wrong. They think the answer is to dim themselves and play small forever. That is a trap of its own, and it kills careers slower, but just as completely. The real move is something different. Let's talk about what is actually happening in any room with a hierarchy in it. This is the status game your generation was never taught to play. Will Storr wrote a whole book on this called The Status Game. His argument, backed by evolutionary psychology, is that humans do not primarily compete for money or even for sex. We compete for relative position in a group, and we have three ways to get it. Dominance, taking it by force or intimidation. Success, earning it through real achievement. And virtue, claiming it through signaled morality or being on the right team. Most people at 25 are playing the success game on hard mode. You think if you just produce more, study more, output more, you will rise. And then you discover that the people above you are mostly playing the dominance and virtue games. They are not measuring your output. They are measuring whether you make them feel powerful or threatened, whether you signal you are on their team or not. Here is where Law 1 connects to your actual paycheck. The person who controls your next raise is almost never the most competent person in the org. They are the most politically secure person, which means they got there by managing perception, not by being the best. And the way they stay there is by surrounding themselves with people who make them look essential. Read that twice. They do not need you to be brilliant. They need you to make them look brilliant by association. This is why your friend who is less talented, but somehow keeps getting promoted, is not actually less talented. They are running a different operating system. They learned, consciously or not, to attribute their wins upward. To say, I learned this from you even when they did not. To pause and let the senior person finish the sentence. To volunteer for the boring high-visibility project instead of the impressive low-visibility one. They are not fake. They are running Law 1 in reverse. They let the master feel like the source of their light, and in return the master pulls them up the ladder. Drop in the comments. Have you ever watched someone less skilled get promoted over you and only later realized they were playing a game you did not even know existed? Because once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Now I told you we would get to the part about Johann Liebert energy and absolute emotional control. Here is the connection. The dark psychology corner of the internet loves to glamorize being unreadable, cold, strategic. But the actual power move from Law 1 is not coldness. It is calibrated visibility. You make sure your work is seen by the right people, in the right framing at the right moment, and you make sure your boss either looks like the catalyst or at minimum is not standing in the shadow you cast. That is not manipulation. That is recognizing that every piece of work happens inside a status field, and pretending the field does not exist is what gets you fired by 25. Now the reframe. And this is where I am going to ask you to drop something you were probably taught your whole life. The school system trained you to believe that being graded by an authority is fair. You did the work, you got the grade. Clean transaction. Adult life is not graded. It is judged. And judgment is a psychological process, not a mathematical one. So stop walking into rooms asking, am I doing good work? That is the wrong question. The question is, whose nervous system does my presence calm and whose does it threaten? Because the people you calm will pull you up. The people you threaten will quietly engineer your exit while smiling at the office party. This is not about becoming a kiss-up. Kiss-ups read as weak and they get used and discarded. Green himself warned about this. Move is to become what the political scientist James C. Scott called legible to power. Make your value easy to attribute. Make your loyalty signals clear. And this is the part that takes years to learn. Make your ambition look like service to someone above you for as long as you need their cover. Then, when you have enough independent leverage, you can drop the cover. This is what your bosses did. This is what every powerful person you admire did in their first 10 years. Mythology of the lone genius who just produced great work and got recognized is mostly propaganda. The reality is they found a master, made that master look better, extracted what they needed, and then moved. And here is the part for you specifically at 24, 25, 26. You are in the leverage building phase. You do not have a name yet. You do not have capital. You do not have a network that pays its own electric bill. What you have is your time and the willingness to be useful to someone with more leverage than you. That is your only currency right now. The fastest way to burn it is to outshine the person whose ladder you are climbing. The smartest way to compound it is to be the person who makes your master look like a genius for hiring you until you do not need them anymore. Once you stop fighting this rule and start using it, the entire workplace stops feeling unfair. It starts feeling like a game with rules you can finally read. If you are tired of motivational content that lies to you and you want more videos that actually name how the world runs, the dark psychology behind the friendly office, the power moves nobody admits to, the rules they enforce but never teach, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a drop. This channel exists for the 18 to 25-year-olds who can already feel the system is rigged and want the framework, not the fairy tale. So here is what to hold on to. Law 1 is not about being fake. It is about understanding that every room has a status field, and your job in the first few years is not to win the field, it is to learn to read it. The people who figure this out by 26 spend the next decade compounding. The people who do not spend that decade angry, talented, and overlooked. You get to choose which one. And one more thing, go back and re-listen to the part about the threat rigidity response. Because once you can name what your boss is doing in real time, you can stop taking it personally and start moving around it. If this hit, watch my video next on Law 3 and concealing your intentions. It is the exact piece that makes Law 1 actually usable in your day-to-day, and it will make everything we just covered click into place.